What's going on, all you dads out there and all you moms? Welcome to the Fade You podcast. This is episode 132. Settle in, gather around. We have a very, very special episode coming your way this time. If you like this episode and you want more content from Fade You, be sure to subscribe to our pod and make sure you're following us on Twitter at Fade You Sports. We do have video versions of this pod available on our YouTube channel. You can find that link in our Twitter bio, so give that a look as well. We're also trying to grow our TikTok, so make sure you're following us on there. Our shenanigans, our degens, Chris Duke doing a yug and an S at Fade University. We do have that trademark, so check that out as well. My name is Matthew James. I'm on Twitter at MatthewJames78, joined as always by the dads, Chris Duke at HazmatSuit23, and Joseph Hamill at Joe_knows____. Got to get all three of them in there.
Unfortunately.
But way more importantly, we are joined by someone who we have been following for a while, since the very early days of Fade You. We finally got to connect and meet her in Vegas when we were there recently for March Madness. And I got to say, she quickly became one of our very best friends and one of our absolute favorite people. She is with Yahoo Sportsbook. She is actual literal royalty on gambling Twitter. She has a new weekday show on MLB Network with Matt Vasgersian called Pregame Spread. It is Ariel Epstein. Ariel, thank you so much for joining us and welcome to the Fade You podcast.
Thanks, guys, for having me. I've never been so excited to reconnect with people. You guys, I really missed you guys after Vegas.
I mean, it sucks that you're all the way in New York. I guess we'll just have to meet in Vegas again next year or before football season.
Ooh, yeah. I mean, there's always the pick. We have to go back anyway to sign up for all the contests. So if you guys are there, I'm going to be there.
Oh, we will be. We will be there too. Hopefully Kelly will be there and it'll be a good time.
The plans are ready. Everyone's going back. We're all going back. Did you guys see that I had to go back there a week ago? I mean, that was ridiculous.
Oh, I didn't see that. What for?
I was asked to go out. I probably can't say this publicly, but there was something I had to do for Derek Stevens at Circa. They asked me about 3 days prior to go fly back to Vegas. When I tell you, I was so not ready. Like my liver wasn't ready. My brain wasn't ready. And not only did I go back there saying that I'm going to do a good job. I'm there for work. I'm going to be there for like 36 hours. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I said to Hakeem Prophet, Ski Prophet at Wager Talk, I said, I'm just going to go to dinner, go to the blackjack table, maybe a little craps and go to bed. Okay, this ended with me at 1 a.m. on a zip line across Fremont Street.
Oh, God.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
You can't behave.
Mm-hmm. No, it's impossible. It's impossible. Yeah, and Derek Stevens actually has been on this podcast as well, so that's pretty cool.
I love him. He's a great guy.
I remember seeing that. I remember seeing the zipline picture, and I was like, wait a sec. There's no way she's there again.
Yeah.
And,
she just couldn't get enough.
Nope. Monday night into Tuesday morning, it was 12 o'clock. It was like midnight. And I'm on Fremont Street. I look up and I see the zip line. I said, I've never done the zip line on Fremont before. It's usually such a long line. What better time to do it? There must be no line at midnight on a Monday night. Of course there wasn't one. So I went.
I'm sure you were completely sober as well.
Completely.
So it's really a good thing to do.
It was such a mistake. I was miserable that whole day I had to work. I worked like 15 hours straight on Tuesday. I was miserable. I had to take a break for an hour and go up to the room and take a nap.
Chris, that sounds like something you would do, the zip line. We'll have to get you out there and get you a yuggy and then a shot and then a zip line.
Absolutely. It does look cool. I've been there down to Fremont and seen them do that. I've done it here in California. We found one that was cool up in the hills. It is fun, especially if you've had a few beforehand.
It makes Chris, you not nervous. Yeah. I wasn't nervous at all.
Yeah.
Well, Chris just has to be weary about getting his chest hair caught in like the coupling above him. So
I didn't have that problem.
Now Ariel, after talking to her about her and her brother in Vegas, has me all like self-conscious if I use my wife's razor, like, oh, I can't leave anything in there. She'll be disgusted like Ariel.
I forgot I told you that story.
Oh, that's hilarious. Man. So good times in Vegas for sure. We wanted to have Ariel on shortly after baseball season started, so this will be a little bit of an MLB focused episode. So Ariel, with that in mind, what is it about baseball that is so near and dear to your heart? Why is it your favorite? Not just to bet in general, but just why is baseball your favorite?
It all started with baseball, this whole career path. I was 9 years old watching the 2003 World Series with my grandpa, and the Yankees grounded out to lose the World Series to the Marlins. My grandpa was devastated. I just felt something for the first time. I felt an emotion towards someone, not myself. It was like a selfless thing. The next year got a Jeter jersey. My grandpa took me to a baseball game. That wasn't my first game, but it was the first one that I remember. I just remember feeling like it was the coolest bonding experience with my grandpa. He taught me how to fill out a card. He taught me all about the game. I found it really fun to be sitting in our it was my grandpa's season tickets at the time in the old stadium, just like the movie Fever Pitch, where they had 3 rows of each other that were all family. I had that same thing in 04 in the old stadium, actually. I had that same thing with 3 rows of us, to the point that in 04, it was Yankees Red Sox, which anyone who knows baseball knows that was the craziest rivalry year ever. Yankees Red Sox game, some random guy in one of our rows ends up spilling beer on me. He's a Red Sox fan. One of the guys who had the season tickets with us in those rows stood up, punched the guy in the face, and was like, "You better apologize to her right now." And he said a few bad words. Then the guy punched him back. They both get kicked out, but this guy got kicked out of a game defending me at 9 years old for getting beer spilled on me. It just was such a family feeling that it's been something my grandpa Marty and I have had for so many years. And I always was allowed to miss school for opening day. Every teacher my whole life since that year knew that I wasn't going to be in school opening day. It was always an absence. I was gone. Even if I didn't go to the game, I got to stay home and watch the game. My parents just said, this is your thing. And that's why baseball is my favorite.
That's incredible. Love it.
Awesome.
And that's a thing. That's not the case in California. I'm a teacher. We don't have kids skipping, calling out of school for opening day. That seems like it's such a, when your family has been Yankees fans for generations, back there, that seems like it's very exclusive to kind of, maybe it's the same in Chicago with Cubs fans or something like that, but it just seems different back east with the Yankees, the Red Sox, those teams.
Yeah, you also have to think I've been dying for a Yankees Dodgers World Series because my grandpa grew up with the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants, the New York Yankees, where you were able to have all these New York teams that your family was so divided over. So yeah, the Brooklyn Dodgers were really the big thing back in the day, but the Yankees have always been the New York Yankees. And what's funny, it's my dad's not even a Yankees fan. He's a diehard Orioles fan, hence why I'm a Ravens fan. He's from Maryland. He just lost me on the Orioles because they were terrible. The only person he was able to show me was Brian Roberts, and he never played. So there was nobody for me to love. I loved Derek Jeter. Then I loved Jeter, and it all just was history. I became this diehard Yankees fan first. The Ravens ended up coming second. But yeah, it's just, opening day was something my grandpa and I always had. And I think for my dad, he said, listen, opening day is a holiday for me. He loved baseball no matter what. My mom loved the fact that I was bonding with her dad. So it was a totally biased, make sure my parents are the favorites kind of grandparent thing. I think that was kind of where mom allowed me to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. It was just a real shame that this year opening day we had the under, and then we both live bet the Yankees, so we screwed ourselves. So that sucked. And then the ghost runner and all that stuff. So
yeah, I was an idiot. I listened to really smart people in this business who told me preseason, because of the ghost runner, don't bet full game unders, only bet first 5 unders, bet full game overs because of the ghost runner. Opening day, I'm an idiot. I just said, you know what? I'm going to bet the under 8 runs on the Yankees and the Red Sox because Cole and whatever, Valdi, revenge. Yeah, that thing was dead after the first inning when the Sox went up 3-0. It was horrible.
And then 3-2, bottom of the first, and then you knew it was just RIP. But yeah, even dumber, on opening day every year, I have a tradition too, and that's I fire every dog. I put a unit on every dog, and just I don't give a shit. I just fire them all and then just go for it. So this year it ended up very profitable. It was up like 4.5 units.
Wow.
So that was good. That's my tradition for opening day.
I mean,
That
I
and
think
just
it's
leave work.
really, I think it's really bad from having the legalized betting where you can bet on your phone now at a game, and the fact that I could place a pregame wager and then go to the Yankees game or really go to any game in New York. And then I say, you know what, my pregame wager lost, and I'm just going to go and be sadistic and bet my team, because either I'm going to be completely miserable or at least I'll win money off my team winning. It just seems like a really bad mix, and it sounds really irresponsible, but whatever, like love of the game, right?
Yeah, it's hard not to fire an over one at like a baseball game you go to, because you're just like, oh, I want to see runs. We don't want to watch a pitcher's duel. Well, some of us do. I love pitcher's duels too, but in
I'll
general,
take a
we want to
perfect
see
game.
a perfect. Yeah,
Well.
I was one out from a perfect game. Actually, I was at Kurt Schilling, his start in Oakland. It was probably 2006, and he was perfect through 8 2/3, and then he let up a single up the middle.
At that point, guys, like I just strike out. Like I just keep looking.
Give it to
Be
him.
that guy. Just be like,
I don't wanna
whatever. I'll
be
be
that
his
guy.
last out, I guess.
Yeah.
Like you're part
Yeah.
of history.
Exactly.
Or you're
Yeah, I don't know.
it up. And did Schilling? No, that's something I wanted to ask you about, because I always stress to my both these guys are from NorCal, but as a Southern Californian, I'm always wondering, because we've got the Angels, the Dodgers. I mean, you've got the Padres, and then the Chargers have come to LA. You've got Oakland. The Raiders have gone from NorCal, SoCal. You've got the Rams have gone to St. Louis and back. So we have all these. The Clippers have gone from San Diego up to LA. We have all these teams that go everywhere. You guys have your teams that Boston's been there. New York's been there, right? Everyone's been there. And it's so funny. A lot of my friends, I tell these guys all the time, I'm like, you would never ever find a Yankees fans that just flip flops. Like, I'm going to be a Red Sox fan now after like 15, 20. I'm like, and I hear all the time, my buddy was a Padre fan. He's like, screw him. Chargers fan. I don't like the ownership, right? Everyone hates the owners of the Chargers. I'm going to be a Rams fan now. So it's so funny, because I've got friends that have Dodgers seats, right? That they ripped the old seats out of the stadium. They've got the old seats from the stadium, and it's so cool. They've had season tickets since the 60s or 70s. So that tradition resonates with me that you have with your grandpa. And it's like, I couldn't imagine. I always love to pick an East Coast. Like, could you ever imagine a flip flopper like that? Like, can you explain why us fickle Southern Californians can do that, but you guys are just stuck in the ways,
Because LA fans suck. That's why.
I mean, it sucks to lose. No one wants to lose. I give my dad so much credit that he has stayed an Orioles fan his entire life. I think too, when people don't have the continuity, like I'm really not a basketball fan. Like I never grew up with an NBA team, because like I became a Ravens fan because my grandpa Marty doesn't like football really. He only likes baseball. So Grandpa Marty and I were the Yankees. Then my dad was always watching Ravens games in the house, so I became a Ravens fan. My dad, being from Maryland, never had a basketball team in the NBA, so I never watched the NBA, and my grandpa doesn't watch the NBA. There just wasn't an NBA team for me. So when people ask me, what's your NBA team? I'm like, I don't know, I guess the Knicks, but I don't really care. And that's probably why I'm good at betting the NBA, because I really don't care. So in California, if you don't care, you actually may be a pretty good bettor, because there's not a team that you probably feel that love for. I stay away. Like on Sundays during football season, I very rarely bet Ravens games. Rarely. Like I'll bet props maybe, but I will very rarely bet a Ravens game, because I just don't trust myself at all. Like I don't trust my heart. I don't trust my heart and my head separating.
Oh, wow.
That's good advice. Very good advice.
I think that was something Matt was talking about. We wanted to talk to you about, because we always talk about, we bet with our wallets, right? I meet so many people that say, I can't bet against the Dodgers or the Rams. I just can't bet it. I know one guy in particular, he's like, I just don't bet the Steelers games. I just don't bet on my team. And I'm like, why? Like, to me, I'm like, Joe and I are really good at handicapping our teams, because we know, like when the Rams, the Rams on Monday Night Football laying 2.5 at San Francisco against, when they have a bad record, we knew that's a good spot. And so it's like,
I'm good at fading my team. I'm bad at betting. I don't want to bet on them, but I will hedge my happiness and I will fade my team if I feel like they're in a bad spot.
Your Manoah K prop, that was good. You were fading
Those
your
don't
Yankees.
bother me though. Props don't bother me because you could strike out 15
true.
times and still win a game. I mean, you might not, but like
that's true. That's very true.
Like the Yankees could still win the game striking out over 5.5 times. That doesn't
and I
bother
didn't
me.
mush you. I didn't mush you too. So you said you hate me, but then I did not mush. I told him not a mush.
If it lost, you were getting blocked.
I know. But Manoah did it, and then we had a bad beat on the other over you had with that.
That was Wesker Noah day, right?
Yeah, it was a bad beat. It was a bad beat because he had 2 in the first inning, and then he only needed 4 or 5. We need 4 or 5, whatever. And he came up 1 short, and he didn't get 2. He didn't get 1 in like 2 straight innings. It's like
there's only knock wood, and I feel like I'm going to jinx this because I know we're releasing this Sunday, but it's Thursday, and my props haven't gone off yet. But I'll just say up until this point, 9-2 on K props. My 2 losses this year so far have been Inoa and Bieber. And what happened was they were 1 away, and they looked great. And then they gave up like 3 or 4 straight runs in like the 4th or 5th inning. Like they looked awesome. They were flawless through 4 or 5. They were 1 strikeout away. And when they were 1 strikeout away, 2 strike counts on multiple guys, they gave up about 3-4 runs and got pulled. It was just terrible beats. It wasn't tragic losses. Just terrible beats.
The one where beat had like a no through 5 and then
because I bet the under on Bieber's opener. And then I bet the over 5.5, I think it was, or 6. It was some 5.5. No, I laid a lot of juice. 5.5, I think, at -145 on Bieber for the second outing, and he was perfect until.
Oh yeah, he struck out 1 billion that game. But so last year it was when I called you out on your K props, even though you didn't answer the tweet. I thought it was gonna be mean. I went back and I found the tweet. It took me like an hour searching through Twitter to find it, but I did, and I'll read it to you. I thought it was a lot meaner. So I said. Yeah, it was actually, I couldn't find it because I actually did it to Sports Grid on a video of you talking about your best bets of the day, doing the shimmy, all the stuff, all that. So I saw it and I said, Ariel, do you ever check out K prop unders instead of overs? If not, why? Seems like everybody that fires K props is on the over. And then the next day you fired 2 unders. So I was like, oh, I caused that, but I probably didn't.
I probably was still insecure then. Now I would tell you to F off because I'll do what wins.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I thought it was fun. I was telling the boys, I'm like, dude, I know I did this because I listened to you every day on my way to work in the morning on Sports Grid. So yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, Joe would always text us till bets do us part, and I'd be like,
oh yeah, I would.
Yeah. So many people are mad that I like gave that a funeral. Like people really wanted me to bring it with me everywhere. I just felt really bad because Sports Grid and I kind of came up with that together. I have a few people that are like, you got to bring it back. Like, everyone loved the shimmy. It's like what made you. I know. I probably could, but I feel like Sports Grid would be so mad. So I don't know. I'd probably have to get approval on that. But yeah, the shimmy was great. I don't know how it happened, but I think I was just bored. It was COVID. We were trying to create cool segments and we were trying to cut social media clips because no one else was putting out content during COVID. I never, you know, it's crazy. And I'll tell you a funny story about that, which I might've told you in Vegas. I never think anyone's listening. Like, I just assume I'm like, there's so many options for people to listen to on the radio and TV. Why would they listen to me? And I just like would be silly and goofy and be like, whatever, I'd be like, tell bet to us part and do all different like crazy things. And it took off. But the funny part of it all is that Matt Viscurgeon was listening that whole time. And Matt Viscurgeon is the one that brought my name up to MLB Network, said I listened to, because he was a VSiN guy and he loves the VSiN guys. He's very close with them. And VSiN got kicked off and we replaced them. Or I shouldn't say kicked off. We just replaced them. And he said he started listening on his drive back from work. That's when MLB Network came calling. So it's just like funny. You think no one's listening and you're just being an absolute goofball. But Matt Viscurgeon was listening the whole time.
You should get him to do the shimmy.
He probably would.
There you go.
He totally 100% would.
And that's something kind of cool that like the people who have followed you from way back will remember. So I mean, if you bust it out, those people will love it. They're like, oh, I remember this from way back when she was a sports critic, and that's kind of a cool thing too.
It's true. If people, the OGs know, even Chelsea Messenger, who works with Odyssey, she, or whatever they call themselves now, she commented when Fishy Lines came out yesterday, on Wednesday. I did Fishy Lines. She goes, the OGs know. And it's so true, because if you look all the way back on my tweets, I did Fishy Lines sometimes like after a workout. And I remember my broadcast coach texting me, yelling at me that like, appearances kind of matter and that I looked like crap. She goes, can you please never post that again? You're like sweating and you look terrible. She's like, don't do that. And it was kind of true, because I look back and I'm just thinking no one cares, no one's watching. But Fishy Lines was another thing that took off. So yeah, I Fishy Lines, Till Bet Do Us Part, K-Props for sure.
Oop. Is that what that was?
Yeah. We call them bait lines or poopy lines on the Fade
like
side. So we get it. We totally get it.
Yeah, baseball Fishy Lines are really fun, especially when the Marlins are a Fishy Line. I love that.
That's fun.
Yeah, that's even better. Yeah.
That's been
to happen.
It's been Chris's thing since, I mean, God, Chris, as long as I've known you, Bet on Sports, your thing has been smelly lines, and like you always look for those road teams laying minus 130 that like, here's your little carrot, little bunny, go ahead and take it. And yeah, Chris, when we started Fade You, one of the first things we posted, Chris, you'll remember this, is the gif of the guy on the toilet blowing the air freshener, like the poopy, smelly lines. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, we're big fans of gifts here. Like when the Arizona Diamondbacks, we get to bet
Snakes.
them. We just fire a billion snake gifts back and forth because it's just the best.
Oh,
Shout out Seth Beer on opening day.
Oh yeah. Okay, so speaking of betting, you're obviously known for props, right? That's kind of become your thing. So can you talk us through the process of like, okay, you're looking at a slate. How are you approaching like which games, which props? Like walk us through like what's the research process? Like how do you actually decide on the ones that you decide on?
For Major League Baseball?
Yeah.
For baseball, I really stick with strikeout props. I know people will do the like total bases or home runs. Hitting's just so fluky in baseball that you could get it wrong today and right tomorrow. With strikeout props, there's way more analytics that go into pitching, and a pitcher only pitches once every 5-6 days. So you're not getting the same guy every day. And you do get teams that are way more strikeout prone than others. I look to the teams that are top 10 with highest K rates and bottom 10 with lowest K rates. That automatically eliminates about 10 different teams. And then I go through lefty versus righty. So I see if a team, let's just say, let me look at my sheet for today. So today is Thursday, April 14th. So, oh no, sorry. Yeah, Thursday, April 14th. Sorry, I have like notes up for tomorrow's slate too already.
Mm-hmm.
So the one that I gave out today was, let's just say Yankees right-hander Luis Severino over 4.5 strikeouts. Toronto has the second highest strikeout rate in baseball. They have the 8th highest strikeout rate against right-handed pitchers. So they're top 10 in high K rates for both those categories. I'm also keeping track of literally every single team and every single pitcher they have faced, along with their strikeout prop, and if they went over or under and by how many. Like I literally, me and my friend Matt, Mid-Major Matt, we have a spreadsheet of the AL and NL with every single team. So I know that 4 out of the 5 starters have gone over their K props against Toronto. So that's one of the things, is seeing that like both of these teams, or both of these, that it lines up a righty, and that they're top 10 overall in K rate and top 10 overall against righties. Because sometimes you'll get a team like the Los Angeles Angels tonight. The Angels have the 3rd highest K rate overall in baseball, but they rank 21st against right-handers. So they're really striking out more against lefties than righties, and they're up against a righty in Dane Dunning. So I lean more towards the under 4.5 strikeouts, because you might be getting a number a little bit too high, because the Angels do strike out a lot. They just strike out more against lefties than righties, and he's a righty. those are the kinds of things I look for, and try to compare and contrast when it comes to just overall K rate versus lefties versus righties. Then eventually throughout the course of the season, I'll start looking at day versus night, or I'll make sure that I'm looking at second half instead of first half, those kinds of things.
What about wind? Do you take that into account sometimes?
I'm at fault for it. I don't. I know Matt will look at weather, and sometimes he'll catch me. Like I always make sure with my props that I have somebody else who looks for things I don't always look for. So like in the NBA, Hakeem Profit, I always go back and forth with him on NBA props because he knows the game better than I do. I just bet numbers. Whereas Matt will look to those kinds of things like weather. I don't know. He has like way more time than me, I guess, because he dives into crazy things. He's like, well, back in 2012, I'm like, whoa. No, I'm just kidding. But he really, like, Matt will look at certain things that I'll forget to look at. So sometimes he helps me cover the bases of everything that I may have forgot about. So he'll look at weather, like he'll, what was it? The White Sox, Seattle game, I think it was.
Yesterday, they're
Robbie
dropping
Ray.
pop-ups. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Robbie Ray, I had his under 6.5 strikeouts, but there was bad weather. And that ended up benefiting me for the unders. So yeah, bad weather and unders could definitely benefit you.
Yeah, I love that stuff. That's good info, at least for Fade You, right? We're trying to teach people some stuff, and you hear straight from the prop queen.
Well, and it's such a great point about looking at the overall data, but understanding that there's maybe more to it than that. Because people do this a lot in football too, where they say, okay, this defense is giving up the third most passing yards. And it's like, well, if they've played Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Brady, then that data is going to be skewed a little bit. So I love what you said about how you track which pitchers each team has faced, because that overall data, it tells a story up to a certain point, but you've got to dig in a little bit more. And isn't that what's so great about baseball, is that all of that data is available, and it's probably the most data-driven sport to bet. And so, if you can nerd out on some of that stuff, you can really find some opportunities to make yourself some money.
For sure. And that's why right now it's early in the year. So I'll look back to 2021, but eventually when we get a larger sample size, I'll just refer to this year. I always make sure that I look at the teams. Let's say I want to bet an over. I make sure that I only really assess that pitcher's performances against teams with high K rates. I won't look back and see if he faced, let's just say, the Houston Astros. The Astros they don't strike out a lot just over the last couple of years. I'm not going to judge what Luis Severino does against the Astros when he's going up against the Orioles, because the Orioles strike out a lot. The Rays strike out a lot. The Astros don't. So why am I using that in my metric? I'm going to use, what has Severino done against teams that strike out a lot, those teams with a top 10 K rate. And like last year, for example, when I used, let's just say, I think it was, Walker Buehler. He's another one for tonight. The Dodgers, I said over 5.5 strikeouts. I'm giving all these out, and you're probably going to listen back to Sunday, and they all probably are going to lose. But Walker Buehler over 5.5 strikeouts.
Don't say that. No.
He went over, Buehler, when he faced a team with one of the top 10 highest K rates in 2021. He went over 5.5 strikeouts in 8 out of the 13 games. But the ones that he didn't go over that on were the only ones were against San Francisco. So that's a divisional team who he faces multiple times. And he did go over it against San Francisco, but he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 starts, because that's the playoffs. 8 starts against San Francisco last year. And he still went over in a few of them, but all the other games against teams that weren't San Francisco, he had over 5.5 strikeouts. So not only was he doing that against teams with a top 10 K rate, he was doing it against teams that aren't in his division.
That's awesome. That's great stuff.
That's great.
I have no
info.
life. None.
You got help, so it's fine. We're not judging here. I mean, if anything, we're like amazed. We want to hear what's under the hood. Like, we want to hear how you come up with these, make everybody else better.
That's what I try to do. I try to help as best as I can. I know people say to me, they're like, well, if you give away your secrets, then people are not going to need you. I'm like, nah, people are lazy by nature. They don't want to go through all this. They'll try it once and then they'll say, forget it. I'll just wait for her to do it.
Yeah,
exactly. Do you ever fire any nerfies or yerfies?
No, I know that it's a cool thing. My grandpa actually just sent me the article. I think it was in the New York Times. Oh no, what was whatever, it doesn't matter. The Daily News. And there was an article about Nerfies and Yerpies, and he sent me a picture. He goes, "Look at this." I said, "Yeah, I know. People love betting it. I don't want to."
Yeah, I love it. It's literally my favorite bet in all sports.
How do you cap that?
He just loves
So
cocaine and methamphetamine, so he likes that high, buzz of Nerfy.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it's the best thing ever because it's over in like 10 minutes. But no, I actually do handicap it. I actually look at matchups. So if there's like a righty, and then if the team that they're playing has 3 to 4 righties on the top of their lineup, and then the other team matches that as well, that same thing, if the righty or lefty, whatever, I'll fire the Nerfy. And it's 2-1 so far this season. It's just kind of rare because most teams are analytical forward and they won't go like righty against a righty. They'll go righty, lefty, or, lefty, righty, like the Giants do. But like the Blue Jays this year, they've matched the system, but the team they play hasn't. So I haven't been able to fire it, but I've done it. It's matched 3 times this year. It's 2-1, but it was nails last year.
Wow. No, it's interesting. I never thought about it. I actually bet my first 3 inning bet with Toronto and the New York Yankees. I think it was the first game of this series, the one with Jameson Taillon pitching. I usually only do first 5, but when I looked back at Taillon's starts against Toronto last year, he left a loser every time that he pitched against Toronto. But I think there was 1 or 2 times where he left by like the 3rd, 4th inning, and then the Yankees scored a bunch of runs by the 5th and tied it up. Similar to what happened in the Yankees Red Sox game, where the Red Sox had the lead until like the 5th inning, and then the Yankees tied it up in the 5th. So I said, you know what? I'm a little scarred from all this. I'm going to go first 3. Let Manoah get through the first swing of the lineup.
Right.
And Taillon, well, he probably can't make it through. So let's just go first 3. And it ended up cashing in the 3rd inning. It was the top of the 3rd, and Springer hits a bomb, and they ended up going up 2-0. I got so lucky. I didn't even think about the fact it would be 0-0.
Yeah, that's amazing. I wish our books don't offer first 3 yet, but hopefully in the future. That's awesome, because then you're just betting about 1 turn in the lineup, and that's pretty cool. You can find some sharp angles there.
For sure.
So let's talk about an issue that has been in the news this week regarding baseball. And I feel like this is an all sports issue to some extent. And we couldn't even get a week into the season, and we're already talking about unwritten rules, right? And so I'm watching a hockey game last night. It's the Avalanche and the Kings, and the Avalanche are up 7-2 in the 3rd period. And it's like, all right, what are they supposed to do? Just pass it around and stop? So we had the Giants and the Padres the other night, and the Giants are absolutely kicking their ass. Yep. And they're laying down bunts, and they're stealing bases, and they're playing the game. And then the Padres cry about it. And I feel like this is something that happens in baseball all the time with the unwritten rules. And it feels like baseball has been having this conversation forever. What is your take on the unwritten rules of baseball?
My take is the same as the Giants manager, Gabe Kapler, who said, never stop competing. I agree. And granted, I know they're up by a ton of runs, but how easy is it in baseball to load up the bases and give up a grand slam? And now all of a sudden it's a game again. Now your pitchers are deflated. Your players' heads are out of the game. I fully agree that in a professional sport, man up, woman up, whatever you want to call it these days, and just like play the game. And like, if you get murdered, then be better. That's it. I mean, I am the kind of person. So funny story. I was just telling this to, I forget one of my friends, but I was at a camp. I was a camp counselor. I was the coach of a soccer team. Our team was terrible. We sucked all year, literally until the last game. The last game, we murdered the other team. And to be honest, I don't think she would ever listen to this podcast. I don't think she likes sports, but I did not like her, the girl on the other side. So because we had a fight already that year and I didn't like the coach on the other side, in addition to the fact I was really glad for my girls that they finally were like playing well, that I left the starters on the field and we were like dominating the soccer match, like 8-1 or something. And they're like, can you please take your older girls out and let the younger girls play? I said, no, it's their last game ever. Like, they're going to be counselors next year. I'm leaving them in. Like, let them enjoy this. They were like, this is mean. This is horrible. They called over the division leader. They called over all the bosses. They were getting so mad at me. And I was like, Oh, well. And I kept them in. So I am that person.
No, I agree wholeheartedly, especially for a guy like Dubon who laid out that bunt, who's kind of like trying to stay on the top, the 25, 26 man roster, or whatever. Like that doesn't, if he gets an out like that still counts, right? When they're looking at his stats 2 weeks from now, if he goes into a slump, I agree wholeheartedly. I think you should play to the end. And if you don't like it, then that's on you.
Get out. I mean, it's so easy. And I've seen it happen because I'm very close with a college baseball coach. And there have been so many times where his players could get up 6-7-0 in a game. And I can't tell you how many times they have blown that lead in the 6th, 7th inning because they just feel like it's done. They won. They're crushing them. And then you blink an eye and 6 runs are scored in an inning and you are now in a 1-run game. And now the game's tied off the bat of 1 home run. And now it's the 7th, 8th inning and you're tied at 7 and you lose. I mean, this happens all the time in sports. It happens all the time in baseball. What, you're going to tell me that I know that in football, you can just run the ball, but that's doing you a service because you can run the clock out. There's no running clock out in baseball. You've got to just keep playing.
Yep. You have to, there's no end. You got to get 3 outs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree 100%.
And how is there room in professional sports for, oh, you're beating us too bad, why don't you take it easy? Like, isn't this the highest level?
Be better.
At some point.
No one's stopping. I loved what Kapler said. He goes, I never understand the premise of one team having to stop playing and the other team can keep competing. That's terrible. Like, seriously, one team. So now you're telling me that the Padres can use everything at their disposal. They have some of the best hitters in baseball. They have some of the best pitchers. They could do whatever they want to keep trying to win this game, but the Giants have to give up. Give up. Just
Right.
keep swinging and missing, please. No.
Yeah, it makes 0 sense. It makes 0 sense. And
So
those
you're
are
going
the
to be
old
mad that he
school.
bunted, but you're not mad if he hits a home run. Come on.
They'll be like, he swung too hard, Ariel. He should have just tried to hit a single because that's so easy in baseball.
Yeah. No, that whole thing, like, enough. Like, we're so sensitive today. And I'm glad that I got a lot more positive feedback on my tweet about it than negative, because I was nervous even to tweet that, which is so pathetic. But I think, like, we've got to really stop being so soft, because we can't, if you're so soft, you're going to be taken advantage of. Like, you can't let that happen.
And again, this was like the 4th game of the season. It's like, what are we doing? It's not even the middle of April and we're already having the unwritten rules discussion. It's just maybe
right,
more.
Like, maybe
ahead,
at the end of the season when a team's like, way out of it, I don't know, maybe then, but like, come on, man, this is the beginning of the season. These wins matter. Like, yeah. Like,
if you've clinched a spot in the playoffs that you can't get out of, like, there's no room for growing in the seeding. There's no, like, that's it.
Right,
you're locked into that whatever seeding, then, like, fine, sure. But come on, these, not only do they need these wins, but these players are still just trying to get acclimated. And some of these younger players are still trying to get acclimated, and they're trying to learn their new teams and get used to new pitching, and maybe someone getting used to a new pitcher they haven't seen, or picking up signs, or just anything. Like, these are things that these players are getting used to. They're not thinking, I don't want to hurt the other team's feelings.
yeah, definitely.
I think the other thing, Kapler, might have been one of the guys on the Giants said, is like, hey, we're playing a series against these guys. It gives us a competitive advantage if we get them to go through more pitchers, and then they have less arms in the bullpen available the next day. So, like, I don't know. I couldn't believe it when I heard that the Padres said, and Chris, of course it was the Padres, right?
Of course. How many they can go back and cry about how many World Series rings they have.
That's amazing. Okay, so go ahead.
Do we go when the Grizzlies won by 60 earlier, or the Blazers tank? They just got beat by the Mavs by 50. I mean, no one is going, oh my God, why didn't they let us come back and make it, a 25-point game instead of 50? It's like, come on, man. These guys that get in want to play. You think these guys sit on the bench and then when they're up by 40, they're just going to come in, like, throw the ball out of bounds? I mean, like you guys said, every time professional athletes, they want to get out there get a base hit too. And so.
Speaking of World Series, all right. So how many Yankees World Series have you lived through and actually remember?
Oh, well, remember is different. The first one I remember is probably 2000. World Series, like ever since 2000, I remember all of them. So I remember losing in 2001, which was heartbreaking. I was actually in Aruba with my family, and it would have been the best story ever if the Yankees won the World Series that year and the Diamondbacks and Randy Johnson messed it all up. I remember 2003 against the Marlins. That's when I started to love the Yankees. 2004, I remember hating my life, but that wasn't a World Series. That was the ALCS. And then I remember Fever Pitch coming out and being all excited because it was a cool baseball movie, and not realizing at the end of it, I had to relive everything from the 2004 ALCS. So I walked out of the movie theater. So I remember that. But my first World Series I ever went to was actually in 2009. I went with my grandpa to game 1 of the Yankees-Phillies World Series.
Okay, so you've been to that one. Okay, so what we wanted, not to bring up 2004 anymore, but as a Yankees fan, so they won a whole bunch of other ones before you remember. How many World Series wins would you trade to reverse the reverse sweep from 2004? How many would it take to undo that?
Oh, I mean, the thing is, if you were to have told me that they never won 2009, then I probably would give up way more World Series. But like, I don't know. That's a tough question. If you think about, so what the next most was St. Louis. How many do they have? I think they're the next most. So I don't know. I'd give up like 3 or 4 World Series for that 04 one, but like, I don't really like, it's more about the experience of living through it. Like I reflect back on 04, and that was like the most exciting season of any sport I think I've ever watched. And yeah, like the Ravens Super Bowl was super fun, but like there was nothing like the 04 season between the Yankees and the Red Sox. There was just so much hatred. There was so much, like, just every game was terrible. But I have to tell you this, guys, I've been to the World Series. I've been to the championship series. I've been to opening day. I've been to the Ravens beating the Patriots to go to the Super Bowl. My most memorable experience, especially in baseball, last game at Old Yankee Stadium. Like that was by far, and I still get chills thinking about it. My grandpa surprised me. I didn't think that he would ever pay for those tickets, and he did. And everybody in those rows that I told you at the old stadium, we all paid for our seats so we could all sit together one last time. And it was the coolest thing. It was better than any World Series. And it was the only time that I was glad the Yankees didn't make the playoffs, was in 2008. And just getting to see Jeter make a speech to everybody, seeing like all this, like the horse and the police officers, like everyone coming onto the field to close it all down, and all the ceremonies. I mean, it was so emotional, and everyone was like hugging around us. Like that, I still get chills, was one of my favorite memories ever in sports.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And that's something that I feel like our fandom, we just don't have the same passion. Like, well, at least we do specifically, but like the people in general, like you can go to the Bay Area, like they don't care as much.
It's a pretty stadium though.
Yeah.
You guys have that over us. I mean, Yankee Stadium now is like, blech. Like, there's nothing like nostalgic about it. They tried, but it's not like old Yankee Stadium at all.
You just can't replicate that kind of history, right? And you can't even really come close, honestly.
No, and you can't replicate the feeling
of
of like thinking the place was gonna fall apart. Like you really thought the place was going to, and I was okay with it. I was okay dying there. Like that was cool. If the place fell to the ground and I was in it, it was meant to be. But in this new stadium, this thing better not break down. I don't want to die in that.
Well, yeah, and I have the same exact feelings about Candlestick Park for the Niners before they moved to not San Francisco. Like I grew up going to Candlestick Park. My dad had season tickets from 1985 to 2005. And same thing. It was a shitty shithole stadium, but it was our shithole. So that's why we loved it.
Yep, totally.
Chris, Joe, you got any other quick hitters for Ariel?
Yeah, how does one earn his pinstripes on the Yankees?
What do you mean?
No, just a stupid PMT thing. They always mess around with Yankee fans because they're like, oh, what does he have to do to earn his pinstripes? Does he have to make like a diving grab? Does he have to, like Brett Gardner, like his
No,
whole
it's really
career was
simple.
just
You just have to shave off your facial hair and cut your hair up past your shoulders.
Oh, speaking of hair, Chris, do you have a question for Ariel?
Yeah, Ariel. So we told the story the other day on our pod about how me and my buddies used to go to Vegas wearing shirts like Joe's and wearing hair pieces like yours as males, or whatever they want to call themselves these days, not cis. But we talked about hair pieces and like John India and all these guys that have gorgeous pieces. Do you have anybody? It sucks because you're Yankees and they're strict. I would get fired. I have to trim this up. Anybody that you like that just has a great hair piece that just when he's on the mound or swinging the bat, it's like, man, that guy's got a mop up there.
Ooh, I have to think about. I mean, I'll tell you this, my brother.
Or favorite hair of before too, since we're same age, like thinking back, like in the 2000s and 90s, that you're like, man, that guy had some wild hair.
Ooh. Well, I'll tell you, all the kids, my brother looks up to Bryce Harper. Like they all want to rock that hairdo. Like they think that Bryce Harper has like the best flow ever. So I probably would have to go with him, considering that's all these boys talk about is being like Bryce Harper and having Bryce Harper hair. I think he rocks it. I think my brother needs to chop it all off. But I also feel like you're going to get me in trouble on this podcast. I feel like the more I'm on this podcast, the more these guys are going to get me into trouble with laughing about things. I'm going to laugh at the wrong thing and I'm going to get canceled.
No, we're not going to get you canceled. What about like DeGrom's hair before he cut it? Remember that?
Yeah, or Thor. No, Syndergaard.
Yeah, Syndergaard was great.
Yeah, so I would say Thor had the best. I think his flow, like it worked. Like Thor's flow worked for him. DeGrom had good hair too. It's funny. It's not something that I really guess I like stare at because I'm so anti-stereotype that I don't want to think about any man's appearance on the field. I just want to like watch them play the game. And it's funny because I had to catch myself. I was doing a podcast for Yahoo, not on Yahoo's podcast, for like a guest appearance. And I said, she was like, how do you handicap baseball? I said, I look for like the hottest pitchers. And she laughed. And I was like, oh my God, I meant like, no, like
not looks,
like hot, like on fire, like skills, like not like looks wise. It was for a magazine. And of course, like, she probably thinking looks. I'm like, no.
Well, shame on her for thinking that. Like if I said, hey, I want to look at the hottest pitcher, they're not thinking that.
No, they're not. And when I said, I was like, I have to take this word out of my vocabulary because that's bad. I can't have people thinking that that's how I judge people on their strikeouts.
Right, exactly. Well, how do we feel about Brandon Crawford's hair?
I haven't seen it. What does Brandon Crawford's hair look like?
I told you
it's very tough. Amazing. Oh, I see. It looks like a mess. I don't like that. That's terrible. No, I don't like the messy look. I don't like the messy flow.
Didn't Bryce Harper get a haircut? Your brother must be devastated.
Well, if he did, then I'm going to. So here's the thing we have with my brother. So my brother loses his AirPods all the time. Like this is like AirPod number like 4 or 5. He's 15 for people listening that don't know. He's like 15.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, we're 13 years apart. And he always loses them. So the deal is, since he lost them last in October, so we said he has a year. And if he keeps onto them for a year, then we'll get him an updated AirPods. But if he loses them again within the year, then my sister, me, my mom and dad get to decide what Brendan cuts his hair like to be. So he's done a good job so far. We almost had a scare yesterday. My sister called, said he almost lost them, but remembered they were in his baseball pants. But if Brendan loses his AirPods again before October, it's getting chopped.
Wait a sec.
Man.
Your brother has like a nice piece going right now.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
Can you
mullet.
You have to like take a picture and say @FadeU. How's this piece for you?
Like rate this. Like you'll love it. Be like, hey, can you rate my brother's hair?
Let me see. I just took a picture with him this weekend because we were at a wedding. And let's see. I mean, I'd have to tweet it at you. But he's got the full. I'll tweet it at you. I have like a little selfie of him. I mean, like I actually, you guys could probably see it here.
Nice. Oh yeah, he's got He's got a decent. It's better than your bald spot, Chris.
I mean, that his hair is huge. I'm not into it. It's too much. Too much.
That's funny.
See, we're just confident males. Like we can compliment another man's appearance. I don't see the problem there. Girls do it all the time, right? I can say
Always.
Matthew James's hair looks amazing right now. Like it's good. He probably taught some kids today, so he got stressed out and it's still squared away. So that's fine.
It's funny you say you don't like focus on that or look at that. It's such the opposite of it. We're watching the Masters on Sunday. Chris just cannot stop drooling over Cam Smith's hairpiece.
Chris shows up to my house with a hairpiece on, wearing it like the Cam Smith hairpiece at my house because we were loving it. But
amazing.
Yeah, it's so funny. I think I've just, since a young age, aside for Jeter I loved, would have married Jeter. Aside for him, I think I've just kind of always like blocked it out of my brain to think that way of athletes because I always wanted them to take me seriously and professionally. And I never wanted to give off that vibe that some girls do, where you talk to these athletes and all they think about is sex. And I'm like, I don't want to give off that vibe. I want to give it off like daggers. Like, don't mess with me because I will come after you. Like, don't mess. And I think I've had that like my mindset my whole life because we always, and it's getting better now. Like people are mixing like reporters, athletes, and they're not getting like shamed for it as much as they used to. It's become like pretty common in the sense that, you know, athletes, reporters, people in our space, like you guys get each other and you understand that like, this is our life. But the thing is too, that I've realized through dating, and I think I told you guys this, is like every date I go on with like a normal guy who has like a 9-to-5, all they want to do is talk about betting and like, what are my bets for the day? One guy on like Hinge was like, does this relationship come with free bets? I'm like, bro. I was like, I don't care if you're hot, like bye. And I like, whatever. So I think that that makes things easier for sure, but it's just been so ingrained in my brain. Like, don't think about it. Don't talk about it. Like, you are working, they are working, professionalism.
Yeah, that's a smart mindset. I mean, you have to be like that. Like it makes complete sense to me. Yeah,
but screw these guys on these dating apps. I'm done. I hate them all.
Oh God, I can't even imagine.
I will never forget that. And I was like, oh, this guy's hot. And then, does this relationship come with free bets?
That's horrible.
He probably thought that was so clever too.
Yeah,
he was probably like, oh, I'm gonna go on a date with the prop queen. And
yeah, it really sucks. He got ghosted. Sucks to suck.
He's like the chicken.
Dear God.
What do you got? 4.5? Under 4.5? Okay, yeah.
One guy I actually made it to the date once, and I sat down, and he goes, "So will you look at my fantasy football lineup?" I was like, "Okay, no."
What?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Are you excited for any NBA? Are you going to be betting NBA playoffs a little bit, or?
For sure. I'll have NBA props out. Actually, my favorite way to bet the NBA player props is to bet the over on their points props at halftime. There's a way that you can go look on NBA.com. You can look at every player's stats based on per quarter, based on per half. So I look at per half.
Wow.
Usually you find 2 to 3 players throughout the NBA playoffs that play a significantly better second half. For example, last year, center for the Utah Jazz, Rudy Gobert, he would only put up about 2 to 4 points in the first half of every game, almost like every game. And his points prop pregame was 14.5. At halftime, it would go down to 8.5. I would bet the over, and he'd end up with anywhere between 14 and 18 points. There were times where he didn't even hit the pregame number, but he went over the live number because Gobert always ended up like tripling or quadrupling his number in the second half. If you could find those players after the first couple of games of NBA playoffs, then it's great. And the reason I didn't do play-in games is, I mean, I'm getting into the rhythm of baseball and we're trying to figure out a routine at Yahoo, but the playoffs, at least you have these series, and having a best of 7 series to look at a larger sample size, that's what makes the playoffs so much more different in the props market, at least, than betting the normal like day-to-day in the NBA regular season.
And you can shop that where you're at. You can like do all your books offer that the second half.
Yeah, a lot of them will have those halftime numbers for sure, especially in the playoffs. Yeah.
Well, that's
We
awesome.
NFL
just
has
got
that too.
Gibson. Gibson K's over.
Did it
1-0.
go over already?
Yep.
Yes.
Just got his 5th.
Oh, sweet. We can bang that one. All right.
Woo-hoo!
yeah.
Bang at least one
Odd
play.
bang.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Yankees hasn't even started yet. What about
Andy's got 2.
Alcantara?
He's got 2. We're gonna need him to figure it out in the bottom of the 4th here.
Yeah, that's
Or
4
bottom
innings
of-
in. That's not
Bottom
good.
of the 5th, top of the 5th, whatever.
I got a tweet now, guys. Got to bring attention to the Yahoo video. I said that in the
Yep.
Yahoo video, I think.
Yeah, I saw it right before pregame. So Matt and I we share an account, so we fired it together.
That was the one you have Bueller on later too, right?
Yeah, Bueller's
Yep.
later.
Perfect. All right. Well, this was so much fun. Ariel, this was awesome. We can't thank you enough for coming on and spending some time with us and sharing some of your wisdom. And we're going to go sweat some more strikeout props, and we can't wait to follow everything you do this season. Will you just remind everybody where all they can find you?
Make sure to check me out at Yahoo Sportsbook on Twitter or sports.yahoo.com. Download the Yahoo Sports app on Google Play or App Store. Then MLB Network. I'm always on the pregame spread, 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern time on MLB Network. It's an awesome time with Matt Viscursion and myself. My own stuff too. I mean, you can follow me at Ariel Epstein on Twitter, Ariel Epstein on Instagram. I'm trying to build that Instagram following. So check it out.
We were going to make sure we mentioned the Instagram because we know you're trying to get that
I'm
growing a little bit.
trying. I
That's
hate
what you
it.
said in Vegas. You were like, Joe, why doesn't anybody follow me on Instagram? And you showed me. I'm like, I don't know. We got to get that thing going.
I just went off focus. I know why. It's because 1, I don't post a ton of thirst traps, and 2, whenever I was posting my pics to my Instagram, they were losing. So I stopped posting pics to Instagram out of superstition. But we're back.
Makes perfect sense to me.
So definitely check out the Instagram. Everybody who listens, get on there, follow that, boost those numbers a little bit. So the way that we like to end our show is we remind everyone that sometimes if you bet on the worst teams, and we didn't talk about betting a lot of sides, but what can happen if you bet on teams like the Diamondbacks or the, God forbid, the Orioles? So what should people expect if they get down in the muck and they bet on the worst of the worst?
Expect in what way?
Wins and losses.
I'm still confused by this question.
To their heart.
Like,
or the wallet.
Or
If
their
someone's
wallet.
if someone's going to regularly bet on the Orioles, what should they expect?
oh, definitely losses. But I mean, if you want to bet on the Orioles or the Mariners or the D-backs, like any of these kinds of teams, not the Pirates, don't bet anything on them. But the +1.5, go take the run line instead of the money line, as long as it's not crazy juice. Like the Orioles, they blew that run line on Wednesday night against Milwaukee. They should have hit the +1.5. They tied the game up at 2. The game goes to the 9th. It's now 3-2. And then they blew it with 4-2. But like, it was only -110 to go. And I know people are like, oh, but money line. No. We're talking about the team that doesn't win a lot of games. They're barely above 500. But if you look back at some of those teams, you could go bet those run lines. Last year, my favorite run line team, the Mariners at home. Seattle +1.5 at home. Last year was like my favorite run line bet.
With Chris Flexen pitching.
Yeah, he's better at home.
Dude, yeah, he was incredible at home.
Yeah. So if you really want to bet those teams because you love them so much and you don't live in California and you actually have a team, then go bet the +1.5.
What if
Take the run line? That's the prop queen's advice.
All right, Chris, bring it home. What happens when you sometimes bet on poop?
You might be like me. You step in shit, take the 1.5, like Ariel said, and still lose by the hook.
Probably.